Okay, so we're back where it all began. This is where I filmed my very first episode for the Welcome to My Dong series, Jonglo. But we're not going to do the same neighborhood, of course. We are walking to Susong-dong. Yes. That's where we will explore today, together with a regular guest now, David Mason.
Welcome and thank you.
And you know that with David, it's going to be interesting.
I do hope so. This is
as always
quite a various neighborhood with quite a variety of interesting old stuff, being the very core of central downtown Seoul for 600 years.
It is a small area and it's a sunny day.
Oh, indeed. Beautiful architecture all around us, super modern architecture. We got a clear blue sky above us.
So here we are.
Alleyways.
Alleyways in the midst of all the modern, beautiful...
Yeah, all these skyscrapers. We got these little narrow things with lots of characteristic Korean food places that are not for foreigners. You see no English around here because this is where the Koreans who work in these skyscrapers, this is where they have lunch and where they have dinner after work together in some fairly old buildings here, right?
Yeah, you can see this is a hanok.
Look at this hanok with a little English on it.
And even Japanese.
Yeah, even Japanese. These alleyways are just great to find.
Oh, the
Boshingak means the local Bell Pavilion here is named after that. I tell you, 40 years ago, you could not even imagine or dream ever appearing in Seoul.
Locally brewed beer?
Well, yeah, craft beer. There were only two kinds of beer available 40 years ago, OB and Crown was the worst beer in the world.
Crown Super Dry.
An OB was slightly better, and that was it.
I can't say this enough, but finding these narrow foot alleys is always such a joy. Even more so when they are amid the skyscrapers. Moving on, I suddenly realized something. The city's beauty can sometimes be found in small and simple things. And David reminded me of that.
I love this. Just the entrance of a normal business building, but the red pine tree, leaning and craggy and gnarled wonderfully, and its companion over there, leaning the other way, making kind of a gateway. And this very nice sculpture. It's just a very nice little urban paradise. These are very characteristic. This is the holy tree of Korea.
Yeah.
The red pine trees. It's the king of all plants, and it's so important. It's featured on the money, on the main bill of King Sejong, and behind him the special royal painting and the red pine trees right there.
There they are.
It's king of all plants.
We're at the back end of the Japanese embassy, I believe. For a long time I wondered, why is there so much police around the building?
Yeah.
And
still, and the building's gone. There's no more embassy, but look at all those police buses.
Tim Hortons.
Coffee house.
They're taking over.
You've heard of that. Yeah, they're invading Seoul.
Yeah.
We will see if they're successful or not.
Right.
This sculpture is kind of famous.
I like it.
Just because it's colorful, sweet and evocative, a little funny. A guy with a laptop computer is strolling along in the wind, clearly, with his scarf, and just a happy Korean, comically big feet, big shoes.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's characteristic. And you know, this kind of thing, as we keep pointing out, at these big buildings, it's required by law that they have outdoor sculptures.
Right.
You have got to have some kind of outdoor artwork. They did this law to make Seoul much more colorful and interesting. People call it the company chairman's niece in art school's benefit law.
Yeah.
If you'll understand.
I understand why.
This is a damn good one.
It makes it really fun to sit in the bus and look out of the window and just spot all those sculptures outside the buildings.
Okay, across the street is the former site, now an empty lot, of the Japanese embassy. And for decades, this was a place where Koreans kept coming to protest. Whenever Japan said something stupid, a conservative Japanese governor or government leader said something stupid, which was pretty frequent, people would come here to demonstrate, throw things at the building, shout. It became a regular thing every Wednesday. The original Comfort Woman statue. There are these all over the world now and all over Korea, but South Korea, but this is the very first one that was built.
The very first one?
The very first one, built and established is the prototype for all of them. It shows a young girl who supposedly would have been kidnapped or tricked into becoming a sexual slave for the Japanese army. They put clothing on her in every season.
But it's the first time I see it fenced off. And
Well,
here,
now, this one is fenced off and locked for us very much. It's a high security situation.
Yeah.
The government long ago declared that this should be removed. Japan keeps protesting to Korea, and countries all over the world, anti-Japanese activists are very strongly militant. It should never be removed. And so they established this tent where people sleep 24 hours a day. People are there ready to resist the government. And there's a woman in this booth. There's somebody there 24 hours a day on alert. If the government ever comes here with like a tow truck and a hook that they're going to grab this thing and try to remove it, she can instantly summon 100 activists to get here right away to stop the government.
that is commitment. That is commitment.
Real commitment.
Then, a surprisingly small but beautiful city park is tucked away behind the modern buildings, where many traces of history can be found. More than I can cover in this video.
In the middle of downtown. This
Sanctuary.
garden, very nice place to come and just sit down for a while. And
Wow.
there's something very surprising
This is lovely.
here in the garden. An old Confucian shrine that survived the Korean War.
No way.
The Korean War that destroyed all of downtown Seoul. This is the portrait shrine to memorialize Lee Sek, who was at the end of the Goryeo dynasty, the medieval dynasty of Korea. He died in 1396, just 4 years after the Joseon dynasty was established here. And he was a great scholar, a great Neo-Confucian scholar who really helped establish Neo-Confucianism in Korea so that it could take over and become the dominant ideology with the Joseon dynasty. And they still hold ceremonies here twice a year, the family, to commemorate him. He's one of the 33 men that signed the Korean Declaration of Independence. The Korean Declaration of Independence on March 1st, 1919. 33 very brave men signed the declaration, knowing they would be arrested by the Japanese for doing that, and they were. He's one of the 33.
What is this? I've never noticed this.
This is a beautiful thing. We are now in the northeast corner of this dome.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful old house, heavily fenced off. You can't go in.
What a beauty,
Charming
man. It's
stuff.
a beauty.
It's a beauty of a house. And
Wow.
I hope they do make it a tourist place.
This building dates back to the colonial period, changed hands several times, and was once lived in by eye doctor Go Young Mok. I just wish I could look inside. Maybe for the better, because the well-famed Jogyesa Buddhist temple is waiting for us.
Because here we are,
Here we are.
the Jogyesa Temple.
Little plaza, part of Jogyesa Temple, an evocative world map that shows where every Korean Buddhist study center was established by Master Seung-san in the 1990s until his death in 2004. He was the incredible globalizer of Korean Buddhism. Korean Buddhism by now is maybe among the top 3 kinds of Buddhism in the world.
Wow.
Along with Japanese Zen and Tibetan Buddhism under the Dalai Lama, who's kind of a superstar. And behind it is the first post office building of Korea. The first National Korean Post Office, 1884. This was built.
In this building.
Yes, it
No
was
way.
built by Japanese influence. Japanese were already getting pretty influential by 1884. They got this built, a very first part of Korean modernization. King Kojong and his regime, they approved it. But then, right away after opening in 1884, there was a coup d'etat attempt by young scholars who really wanted Korea to modernize. They studied in Japan about the modernization. The Korean government would not modernize. They were remaining very conservative under the influence of the Grand Prince Taewon-gun, the king's father. And so they attempted a rebellion, and they had their meetings in this office.
In this office?
Planning the rebellion. Post office modernization symbol. police moved in, arrested everybody, killed the leaders and even all their families, wiped them out. Only a few leaders escaped. Then the Korean government shut down this post office. Considering this symbol of modernization, well, you see it right away, it bred a coup d'etat attempt. They are traitors, and so they shut it down for a while.
All the little stories hidden in the city.
It's fascinating to think about Korea's struggle to modernize in the early 1900s and how that compares to today. Today they have no problems taking a leading role in modernization, but let's look at the Jogyesa Temple now. With Buddha's birthday coming up, the temple is preparing the colorful lanterns as usual. And there's no better moment to learn a few interesting facts and stories about this place, starting with why it's here.
I'd like to tell you the story of this temple, which is very profound. You must understand, Korean Buddhism was outlawed and banned for 500 years. When the Joseon dynasty took power, it was under the ideology of Neo-Confucianism, which entirely displaced Buddhism. The monks were not killed, but the monks were told you must join society, get married and get a job, or you have to leave the cities. You got to go to the mountains. And every temple that was in the cities was torn down. So there are no great temples available in any big city in Korea. They're all out in the great mountains. Then, in 1907, the Japanese are really taking over, and before even 1910, they legalize Buddhism. So right in 1910, a group of Buddhist monks from temples that are outside the city, in the mountains outside around Old Seoul, they gathered some money together and they came into the city for the first time ever, entered the city gates, first time in 500 years. They came downtown Seoul, right here in the middle of downtown, and they're very lucky they found this royal shrine. There's an old royal shrine, not very important, and the shrine was under ownership of some obscure royal nephew who needed money. He was out of money and he needed money. He needed a cash sale, and he sold this property to the Buddhists, and then they were able to establish the national headquarters of Korean Buddhism right here.
Jogyesa.
Yes, good luck. And this is Jogyesa Temple. This tree, notice it is a white bark tree, pure white bark, but it's a pine tree. It's the only such species in the world. Extremely rare. It's called a lace bark pine, and it is not native to Korea. No, it only grows in one obscure region of northwest China, out west of Beijing. It is then is 630 years old.
The few white pine trees in the city, including this one, were presumably acquired in China by Korean envoys who brought them back here. They are gorgeous.
Buddha of the past, Buddha of the present, Buddha of the future. And these are the biggest metal Buddhas ever made in Korea at that time, 1927. And the point is, they're not very big. Koreans were never into giganticism. Even back to 700 AD, the Chinese and Japanese were both making gigantic Buddhas, and down in Thailand or Burma, gigantic metal Buddhas and even bigger stone Buddha, but like an iron Buddha in Japan that's 4 stories tall. They were doing this. Koreans were never into making big, giant monuments. They thought it was excessive. They thought it was arrogant, not necessary. Koreans are humble and simple. This pagoda is one of the holiest places of Korean Buddhism. In 1912, there was a monk from Sri Lanka traveling the world in a steamship exhibiting Sri Lankan Buddhist culture. And he had with him some of the sacred holy relics of Buddhism, including original sarya of Buddha from his funeral, one of the original 300 crystals from the cremation of Buddha himself. And so he directed his steamship to go over to Korea and found that the monks had brought this property and they were organizing. They just had a small shack with a Buddha statue here. And they're organizing and going to make the national headquarters temple of Korean Buddhism. And as a gift, he gave them one of those crystal relics of Buddha himself, one of the authentic. It's like having a piece of the cross of Jesus or Jesus's clothing, an actual piece. And so they built a stone pagoda to store that relic in 1912.
You pass by on a normal day in many of today's places without knowing what, how or who. Well, now you do, if you made it until here. If you did watch until here, you may as well subscribe, leave a comment and look at this beautiful map I'm keeping track of. Susong will be remembered as the neighborhood for Buddhism's comeback to the old city center. Welcome to Maidong.
All this street up and down here is the Buddhist shopping district.
And here on the shoes you see little Sesame Street figures.
I cannot explain that according to Buddhist doctrine.